Hi, thanks for being here. It is Thursday, August 3rd. Oh my goodness, it's my dad's birthday. Um, Thank you for being here. If you're here live, thank you for watching later. If you're watching the replay, I appreciate all of you. I appreciate people who are interested and able to be here to do a live thing with me. Yeah, we're doing a moving sale. So I'm just, we're just throwing it together here. That's why I was like, let's do my favorite. Let's do Samson. That's easy. And that's kind of fun in that weird kind of way that doing any of this is fun, right? And so let me just say thank you. I love that you all are here. I appreciate all of the ways that you're supporting me by subscribing to my channel or sharing a link of like one of your, like if there's a more interesting conversation than usual or something like that, you share it with a friend that you know others who are interested in such conversations, or also would help. It would also benefit others that you know to hear someone saying all this stuff, right? That's why I'm doing it. I appreciate all the different ways. I appreciate people supporting me on Patreon. I appreciate people buying the audio version of my second book, Permission Granted. I just finished my proofs and indexing for my next book. Very excited about that. I read chapter 3 here a week ago. That was fun to do, to chat with whoever was here for that. I got to see the book cover. So yeah, there's things are happening. So that's very exciting. Marriage in the Bible. Let's see. What do the texts say is the book I'm talking about. Very excited about that. And that is coming out soon this fall. Very excited. So thank you for all the different ways that you support the work I'm trying to do as an independent biblical scholar. I'm having to be very creative in how I support myself and make things work. And so finding people in the YouTube world who are interested in what I'm offering has been really fun and delightful for me. And so thanks for being here. I want to just jump right in because there's several chapters to read through and just want to do it. Let's just do this, right? Samson! Woo! Samson! Okay, so I think it's important to note a couple things. I'm going to go back over to comments so I can see what everybody's saying while we're here. Okay. It's nice of you, Carrie Ann. I'll pass on your happy birthday wishes. Okay, so just a quick reminder. The book of Judges, right, has a whole bunch of people that if you grew up in a Jewish or Christian setting, you probably heard about a bunch of these guys. One female, Deborah. I'm not trying to make a thing about the judges right now, but I'm just saying they're shown to be kind of interesting people at times. Some of them are quite smart, or some of them are really helpful or interesting. We looked at Jephthah on Tuesday. Seemed to be a bit of a badass in terms of a warrior, but maybe not so quick in terms of thinking ahead. He made a vow with God to throw whomever comes out to greet him, like to have them presented to the Lord as a sacrifice. People say, did he expect it to be the family dog? And even that I'm not okay with, right? So anyway, so the book of Judges, one of the main purposes of this book is to show the people that they need a king over Israel, that these judges, however great they may be in their own right from time to time, not cutting it overall. Okay. So when you think of this character Samson in the book of Judges as among that list of people, I actually think it's okay. I'm sweating because I'm helping with we're setting up a moving sale. It's all just chaotic around here. I think it's okay to actually say, yeah, Samson's a bit of a problem. Like he isn't worth emulating in the way that I thought of him as a child, because he was bad at, right? I mean, I think we should be thinking of the Hulk when we think of Samson, right? Like he goes from being a normal person to the spirit of the Lord comes down upon him and he just tears some things up, right? Like, I mean, so I think it's okay to raise questions about um, his rage issues. He needed some help with that. He may have been he's described, in my opinion, right, as a like manic depressed, like bipolar. I don't know, something not so unregulated, unmanaged there. He's got some serious relational issues, right? Coming out of the era that he does, not a surprise. But at the same time, some of the things said about him or that he's attributed with saying, in his story about women or the way that he interacts with women, it's just really not healthy relationship stuff, right? So I'll raise all the questions that I want to raise just because it's a story, but I also want to make sure that yes, the point of this story time is to highlight when when passages are talking about sex, the relationship we call marriage, and when there's some sort of story about physical harm involving intimate body parts. So that is my ultimate purpose with the Storytime Live, is to focus on those pieces. I can't help but highlight the others at the same time. Okay. So let's go. It's probably the fastest intro I've done in quite some time. It's only 7 minutes. I'm like, yeah, let's get to the stuff. Okay. Starting in Judges 12, and it goes through, I think it's 17. So we've got a bit to read here. I don't know if we'll skip over some. It's interesting stuff. Okay. I'm sorry. Hang on. I thought I got very. It's not. Judges. What am I getting confused on? The Philistines, it was even less. Oh, okay. Sorry. Judges 13. I'm like, something's wrong. Okay. Judges 13. The Israelites, again, did what was evil on the side of the Lord. So this is a piece of the book of Judges, has this kind of this cycle. They do what's evil on the side of the Lord. So the Lord literally hands them over to their enemies time and time again. I mean, it's an abusive relationship, right? Yeah. They do what's evil. God lets somebody whoop their ass for a while or something, oppress them for a while, and then they cry out, and God sends a judge, and then the deliverer, sets things at peace for 2 years, 10 years, 20 years, who knows? And then the Israelites do what's evil on the side of the Lord, and this cycle goes over and over and over again. Okay, we should be very clear that when they talk about they do what is evil in the sight of the Lord, really, it just means they're not worshiping God. They're not only or purely worshiping Yahweh. That is also a thing that is for conversation, but not for today. But I just want to highlight that this is a cycle that goes on over and over again. So the Israelites did what was evil in the sight of the Lord, and the Lord gave them into the hand of the Philistines 40 years. There you have it, right? Okay. So there was a certain man of Zorah, of the tribe of the Danites, whose name was Manoah. His woman, my English says wife, his woman was barren, having borne no children. I love it when the Bible does that. You're like, that's usually what that means. And the angel of the Lord appeared to the woman and said to her, although you are barren, having borne no children, you shall conceive and bear a son. Now, be careful not to drink wine or strong drink, or to eat anything unclean, for you shall conceive and bear a son. No razor is to come on his head, for the boy shall be a Nazirite to God from birth. That's Nazirite. Not to be confused with Nazareth, right? It is he who shall begin to deliver Israel from the hand of the Philistines. Yahoo, right? This is good news, okay? Also note, remember, Philistines were there first. I just think it's always important to make these comments. But anyway, we'll keep going. Then the woman came and told her man, my English says husband, a man of God came to me, and his appearance was like that of an angel of God, most awe-inspiring. I did not ask him where he came from, and he did not tell me his name. But he said to me, you shall conceive and bear a son. So then drink no wine or strong drink, and eat nothing unclean, for the boy shall be a Nazirite to God from birth to the day of his death. Someone set apart, consecrated to the Lord, and that's why no strong drink. He doesn't cut his hair, all those things, right? I love what happens next in the story. Then Manoah entreated the Lord and said, oh, Lord, I pray, let the man of God whom you sent come to us again and teach us what we are to do concerning the boy who will be born. As in, I want a messenger from God, not just my woman. Like, you can't blame him, right? You can't blame him. God listened to Manoah, and the angel of God came again to the woman. I love that. I love that. As she sat in the field. But her man, English's husband, but her man Manoah was not with her. So the woman ran quickly and told her man, English's husband, the man who came to me the other day has appeared to me. Manoah got up and followed his woman, English's wife, and came to the man and said to him, are you the man who spoke to this woman? And he said, I am. Then Manoah said, now, when your words come true, what is to be the boy's rule of life? What is he to do? The angel of the Lord said, Manoah, let the woman give heed to all that I said to her. She may not eat of anything that comes from the vine. She's not to drink wine or strong drink or eat any unclean thing. She is to observe everything that I commanded her. I don't know about you all, but I love this. It doesn't get enough attention that there's a dude who's like jealous that his woman actually spoke with an angel of the Lord. And he's like, hey, could you come back? Because we don't know what to do. And so he comes back and he's like, actually, she knows because I told her yesterday. Like, I don't know why. I do know why. It's something like that doesn't happen. Like affirming the fact that she's capable enough to like listen to what the Lord, I love it. You got to enjoy these moments when they come. You know what I'm saying? We don't get the affirmation of women's abilities very often. We do from time to time in the Bible, but not often. I love it. Okay, keep going. Manoah said to the angel of the Lord, allow us to detain you and prepare a kid for you, as in a young goat, not a child. The angel of the Lord said to Manoah, if you detain me, I will not eat your food. But if you want to prepare a burnt offering, then offer it to the Lord. So like Manoah's trying really hard to get in good with the Lord and get in good with this messenger, and the messenger's just not having it. I think it's hilarious. I love it. For Manoah did not know that he was the angel of the Lord. That's debatable. But anyway, that's what the story's telling us. Then Manoah said to the angel of the Lord, what is your name, so that we may honor you when your words come true? But the angel of the Lord said to him, why do you ask my name? It is too wonderful. So Manoah took the kid with the grain offering and offered it on the rock to the Lord, to him who works wonders. When the flame went up toward heaven from the altar, the angel of the Lord ascended in the flame of the altar, while Manoah and his woman, my English's wife, looked on, and they fell on their faces to the ground. The angel of the Lord did not appear again to Manoah and his woman, my English's wife. Then Manoah realized that it was the angel of the Lord. And Manoah said to his woman, my English's wife, we shall surely die, for we have seen God. But his woman, English's wife, his woman said to him, if the Lord had meant to kill us, he would not have accepted a burnt offering and a grain offering at our hands, or shown us all these things, or now announced to us such things as these. Are you a dip? Well, are you not? Interesting. Marriage is hard. Yep. That's what I hear. The woman bore a son, and named him Samson. The boy grew, and the Lord blessed him. The Spirit of the Lord began to stir him at Mahanadan between Zorah and Eshtaol. This is important. And again, it's not specifically about the sex, marriage, and whatever stuff, but I think it's important to note, and this is like if you're talking to your children about this stuff or whatever, every single time Samson gets destructive, in the story, it's the Spirit of the Lord. This is a really important thing for me to point out to you all. Okay. So let's go. Let's keep going. Chapter 14. Once Samson went down to Timnah, and at Timnah, he saw a Philistine woman. Now, just to make sure people know, most of you probably do, but I just want to make sure the Israelite people were not supposed to marry. The men of Israel were not supposed to take women from foreign people. And the reasoning behind it is you don't want to be influenced to worship their gods instead. But it does constantly sound rather xenophobic or like racist ethnicist or something, right? But just so you know, as a Nazirite, right? He's like consecrated. He's special. He's like a priest, but not really. And so he knows he's not supposed to mingle. He's not supposed to take women from the Philistines. Okay, the people who were oppressing them. Just so you know, it's not like he's clueless here. Okay, so he came up and told his father and mother, "I saw a Philistine woman at Timnah. Now go get her for me as my woman." My English says wife. So he sees someone beautiful, right? Wants her, gets her. Yeah. But his father and his mother said to him, "Is there not a woman among your kin or among all our people that you must go take a woman," my English says wife, "from the uncircumcised Philistines?" I love the way they keep being called that over and over. It's really kind of funny. But Samson said to his father, "Get her for me because she pleases me." I'm laughing because I'm thinking of all these men I've interacted with over the years. I'm just saying, he's not the first person. He's not the only person to talk this way, right? I get horny when I look at her. Just go get her for me, okay? Assuming that all is well on the other side as well. Okay, anyway, his father and mother did not know that this was from the Lord. Dun, dun, dun. For he was seeking a pretext to act against the Philistines. At that time, the Philistines had dominion over Israel. So it's from the Lord that Samson is about to intermarry with the Philistines in order to wreak havoc over them. Just so we're clear, right? Like absolutely clear. God is behind all the devastation that is about to unfold. Then Samson went down with his father and mother to Timnah. When he came to the vineyards of Timnah, suddenly a young lion roared at him. Rah! The Spirit of the Lord rushed on him, and he tore the lion apart barehanded as one might tear apart a kid. Again, a young goat, not a child. But still, being able to rip apart an animal is pretty impressive, and it is the Spirit of the Lord that enables him to. But he did not tell his father or his mother what he had done. The issues, right, of Nazirite, right? No wine, don't cut your hair, don't touch any dead things, dead bodies. Does that apply to animals as well? I'm not entirely sure, to be honest. I would assume it does. I should look into that. I should know that. But anyway, but he doesn't tell his father and mother what he'd done, probably because they're not supposed to do that. Okay, then he went down and talked with the woman, and she pleased Samson. We'll just let that ride. After a while, he returned to take her. This says to marry her in the English, and it is to take in the Hebrew, just so we're very clear, okay? And he turned aside to see the carcass of the lion, and there was a swarm of bees in the body of the lion, and honey. He scraped it out into his hands and went on, eating as he went. When he came to his father and mother, he gave some to them, and they ate it, but he did not tell them he'd taken the honey from the carcass of the lion. I mean, how old is this? Is this guy 9 or 29? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, his father went down to the woman, and Samson made a feast there, as the young men were accustomed to do, right? A little bachelor party, right? When the people saw him, I love this line, they brought 30 companions to be with him. So this Samson was a large, strong man, right? Okay. Samson said to them, "Let me now put a riddle to you. If you can explain it to me within the 7 days of the feast," it's a serious celebration, 7 days, "and find it out, then I will give you 30 linen garments and 30 festal garments. So I will prepare you for the feast, the 7th day," right? Or the final, whatever. "But if you cannot explain it to me, then you shall give me 30 linen garments and 30 festal garments." So they said to him, "Ask your riddle. Let us hear it." And he said to them, "Out of the eater came something to eat. Out of the strong came something sweet. But for 3 days, they could not explain the riddle. On the 4th, although one of the versions of the story say on the 7th, so time is like it's getting crunch time. Regardless, some point in the, in that week, they said to Samson's woman, it says wife in my English, and I don't think they're actually married yet, but that's interesting. I guess they have married. I thought this was the pre-celebration. Anyway, never paid attention to that part. Said to Samson's woman, coax your man, my English says husband, coax your man to explain the riddle to us, or we will burn you and your father's house with fire. Like, no big deal, right? No big deal, right? Just tell him, get him to tell you the thing, or, or you're dead meat, right? You and everything you love and have worked for, right? No big deal. Have you invited us here to impoverish us? So Samson's woman, English says wife, Samson's woman wept before him, saying, you hate me. You do not really love me. I'm not good at this kind of whiny voice. I'm sorry. You've asked a riddle of my people, but you have not explained it to me. He said to her, look, I have not told my father or my mother. Why should I tell you? Really great relational, working things out, being demonstrated here for us, right? She wept before him the 7 days that their feast lasted. And because she nagged him, this is important because of the language around marriage, the language around relationships, the language about couples and how they are described. And that this woman is not the only woman in Samson's life who is described as nagging him. Right? Because she nagged him, on the 7th day he told her. Then she explained the riddle to her people. The men of the town said to him on the 7th day before the sun went down, what is sweeter than honey, and what is stronger than a lion? And he said to them, if you had not plowed with my heifer, you would not have found out my riddle. All right. So everybody raise your hand if you would like to be called a cow, or if you've ever thought of calling your partner a cow. I just want to know, right? Like, just raise your hand. And he's not the only one to do that. There's a really, I'll never forget this from graduate work. I started at Baylor. I did three semesters of coursework at Baylor before I transferred to Vanderbilt. And I remember that first semester doing an Amos seminar, translating Amos, and that passage in chapter 4 or 5, where the prophet is referring to the women as the cows of Bashan, right? The wives of the priests and prophets, and, just calling them cows of Bashan. And this one woman in our seminar, it's a very conservative setting, Baylor, right? And most people there didn't find trouble with anything in the scriptures. But this woman just kept pushing, she's like, cows of Bashan, cows, women are being called cows. So he's not the only first or last in the Bible to refer to women as heifers or cows. I think it's worth highlighting, and that's it. We'll keep moving, but this is important to me to highlight precisely for the reasons of this Storytime Live ongoing thing, which is the way marriages are talked about, the way people in couples are talked about, the language they're given. It's funny, but not at all, when you see women being described as nagging their husband, their man, and all the different things that go on, all the different reactions to things that are being described in these stories. It's like it's planting seeds. It's planting seeds of antagonism instead of communication, right? And it really just drives me crazy. Okay. If you had not plowed with my heifer, you would not have found out my riddle. It's also interesting because plowing with my heifer, it almost sounds like they had sex with her instead of just, asking her. But anyway, I'll just keep going. Then the Spirit of the Lord rushed on him. So here we go, right? He's going to be just devastating again. And it's the Spirit of the Lord. Okay. And he went down to Ashkelon. He killed 30 men of the town, took their spoil, and gave the festal garments to those who had explained the riddle. In hot anger. He went back to his father's house. And Samson's woman, my English says wife, Samson's woman was given to his companion, who had been his best man, because apparently he's not interested anymore, right? After a while, at the time of the wheat harvest, Samson went to visit his woman, my English says wife. It's really fun, right? Like he just has a woman. I mean, I don't know if it pulls up images of anything for you all, but he lives over here and he's got a woman over there just waiting for him. I don't know. Went to visit his woman, bringing along a kid for dinner, you know. He said, I want to go into my woman's room, my English says wife, but her father would not allow him to go in. Her father said, I was sure that you rejected her, so I gave her to your companion. Is not her younger sister prettier than she? Why not take her instead? I mean, really? I gave her to your companion. Can we get any more explicit about property? Women as property. Can we? Does it get any more explicit or any more whatever? She is property being handed around, you know. And is not her younger sister prettier anyway? Why don't you just take the prettier one, right? Because that's all that matters, you know. Okay, I need to keep reading through this because it's important to kind of put it all together. So her father said, I was sure you'd rejected her, so I gave her to your companion. Why not take her younger sister? Isn't she prettier? Why not take her instead? Samson said to them, this time when I do mischief to the Philistines, I will be without blame. So let's be very clear that I ask my students every term. I teach this 4 times a year, the intro to the Hebrew Bible, and I always ask students, is his response reasonable? Do you think his response here is reasonable? I was sure, right? Because what happened here? Samson set up the riddle, the most ridiculous riddle ever, right? And so it was going to impoverish them or not. I don't care the reason. He sets up the riddle. They're feeling threatened by it or whatever. It was going to impoverish them, according to them. Don't know if it's true. They find a way. They get the answer. All this negative blah about, you know, essentialization of women going on here. They figure it out, and he gets pissed that they figured it out. And so he like goes and kills a whole bunch of people. So her father's thinking, yeah, he's done with this deal, and he does a pretty reasonable thing and moves on. And so his reaction is that when I fuck with you all next, it's going to be your fault, and it's going to be justified. And let me be very calm now. I do have students who say it is justified. I just need you to know that. When I do mischief to the Philistines, I will be without blame. So Samson went and caught 3. I can't even read this. It's so hard. I feel like I might barf. So Samson went and caught 300 foxes. Oh, it's so hard to read, you all. It's just really hard. Okay, I'm going to try to block it out. But part of the reason is I'm trying to be really present and honest and all that with you all. So it's like, it just makes me so upset, even though it's just a damn story. And okay, I can do this. Caught 300 foxes and took some torches, and he turned the foxes tail to tail and put a torch between each pair of tails. And when he had set fire to the torches, he let the foxes go into the standing grain of the Philistines and burned up the shocks and the standing grain, as well as the vineyards and olive groves. This is utterly devastating, by the way. I mean, did you pay attention to the list of things they're burning up? The standing grain, right? The shocks and the standing grain, the vineyards. Like, how long does it take to get vineyards to a productive place? Olive groves. I mean, it is devastating. I mean, I just want to tell them to, like, and then all those foxes. It just, okay, keep moving. Then the Philistines asked, who's done this? And they said, Samson. The I don't remember the Hebrew here. The son-in-law, I don't remember what is in the Hebrew. The son-in-law to the Timnite, because he's taken Samson's woman, my English's wife, and given her to his companion. This is his reaction to that scenario. Very justified. Entirely. What? Not, oh my gosh. Reaction. Talk about reaction way overdoing. So the Philistines came up and burned her and her father. It's just so gross. It's so gross, you all. It's just awful. And I gotta keep going. Thinking about them being burnt, all the animals, I just can't. Samson said to them, if this is what you do, as if he's the one, right? I swear I will not stop until I've taken revenge on you. What do we call this kind of a person? I'm being serious. Do we have any psychiatrists in the room, in the house? Psychologists, psychiatrists, anyone who knows what we call this kind of person? Because I don't remember. This ridiculous reactions to things that he set in motion. It's just so upsetting. Okay, he struck them down. So this is what you do? I'm not going to stop until I've taken revenge on you. He struck them down hip and thigh with great slaughter. And he went down and stayed in the cleft of the rock at Etam. And the Philistines came up and encamped in Judah and made a raid on Lehi. And the men of Judah said, why have you come up against us? And they said, we've come up to bind Samson, to do to him as he did to us. Then 3,000 men of Judah went down to the cleft of the rock of Etam. And they said to Samson, I mean, come on, people, 3,000 men, it's a little bit much. Do you not know that the Philistines are rulers over us? What then have you done to us? He replied, as they did to me, so I have done to them. So petty. They said to him, we've come down to bind you so that we may give you into the hands of the Philistines. Like, we're not having any more to do with you. Samson answered them, swear to me that you yourselves will not attack me. And they said, no, we will only bind you and give you into their hands. We will not kill you. So they bound him with 2 new ropes, dun, 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 and brought him up from the rock. When he came to Lehi, the Philistines came shouting to meet him, and the Spirit of the Lord rushed on him. I need some sort of music and soundtrack here, sound effects. And the ropes that were on his arms became like flax that had caught fire, and his bonds melted off his hands. Then he found a fresh jawbone of a donkey, reached down and took it, and with it he killed 1,000 men. And Samson said, some sort of song, with the jawbone of a donkey, heaps upon heaps. With the jawbone of a donkey, I have slain 1,000 men. When he'd finished speaking or singing or celebrating, he threw away the jawbone, and that place was called Ramoth Lehi. By then, he was very thirsty. You don't say. And he called on the Lord, saying, you have granted this great victory by the hand of your servant. And now, am I now to die of thirst and fall into the hands of the uncircumcised? So melodramatic. So God split open the hollow place that is at Lehi, and water came from it. When he drank, his spirit returned, and he revived. Therefore, it was named On Hakore. On Hakore? That's Hakor. I'm sorry, that's a name I just don't think. Oh, I think I've maybe skipped this in the past. Anyway, which is at Lehi to this day. And he judged Israel in the days of the Philistines 20 years. I mean, that's worth noting, right? This guy with serious rage issues is a judge over Israel. But that doesn't seem like a Hebrew word, is why I'm tripped up by the name. En Hakore. Anyway, okay. Chapter 16. Once Samson went to Gaza. where he saw a prostitute and went into her. Yeah, I'm with you, Logan. Yeah, like, right. This is just slaying men with the jawbones, making me really making me tired. It's raining outside, so everything's getting all wet. I just love how literal it is. When the Hebrew Bible talks about men going into women, it's hard to know if that should be into or into. Like, oh, I'm going into the bedroom where she is, or I'm going into her. Because you can't tell the difference in terms of the preposition in the Hebrew. And so he saw a prostitute and went into her. Okay. The Gazites were told, Samson has come here. So they circled around and lay in wait for him all night at the city gate. They kept quiet all night, thinking, let us wait until the light of the morning. Then we will kill him. But Samson lay only until midnight. Then at midnight, he rose up, took hold of the doors of the city gate and the 2 posts, pulled them up, bar and all, and put them on his shoulders, and he carried them to the top of the hill that's in front of Hebron. Oh, I don't want to make comment. I want to make some commentary on this, but I also want to keep moving. Oh my gosh, right? He just needs a little piece of ass. Come on, just give him a break, right? Just give him a break. You just need a little action. I'll show you. Lying in wait. All right. After this, he fell in love with a woman in the valley of Sorek, whose name was Delilah. The lords of the Philistines came to her and said to her, coax him and find out what makes his strength so great and how we may overpower him, so that we may bind him in order to subdue him. And we will each give you 1,100 pieces of silver. Now, I do want to point out that I think it's really interesting the way people are teaching about Samson in Sunday school classes or in Jewish synagogues, tabernacle, like temples, when they teach about Samson. What is it they're using? What material are they using? What part of the story are they focusing on? And how do they spin the characters? Because it's got to be spin of some sort. What kind of workup does Delilah get from I focused on Christian Sunday school just because that's my background and that's the people I interact with the most. But what are they doing with these characters? What are they doing with Delilah? Who's being thrown under the bus? Because it's not going to be Samson, even though it really should be. And it is interesting how often Delilah is depicted as a woman who is greedy and she wants that money, completely overlooking the fact that her life is on the line, right? And the story tells us he fell in love with her. We have no idea what's going on for Delilah. And so she's been put in this situation and then she's being threatened, right? And so it's fascinating to me what we're teaching children, what these Sunday school lessons are teaching children to pay attention to and to ignore. And also it'd be kind of interesting just to go Google Samson Sunday school material or something and image it, because a lot of the images that there's this one that's really prevalent for some reason, and it looks like a ghost. It's green or blue, and he's got flowy hair. It's not a human looking person. It's more like Casper crossed with, I don't even know. It's not Casper looking, but it's a ghostish kind of a character. Anyway, so people focus on his long hair and people focus on the gift that God gives him. And it's just, I get it. We're going to find a thing we can focus on to teach our children, because apparently children really need, to have biblical heroes. So wasn't the army called in to kill Samson? So we haven't gotten there yet, but they had the people from Judah, right, who said they weren't going to kill him. And then, no, there isn't an army called in to kill him. That doesn't happen in this version of the story. If it might happen in the commentaries, it might happen in the Talmud, the Mishnah, but it's not in the biblical story itself. So I just wanted to highlight that about Delilah before we read into her story. It says, before I keep going, to pay attention to how she is being depicted. And then I would like you to know that she's also, the way she's being interpreted and handled, at least in Christian settings, is often very unfair. Same with the woman from Timnah. But okay, most people know of Delilah or have heard of Delilah. Many people have. So I just want to highlight that about her. So let's read their part of the story. After this, he fell in love with a woman in the Valley of Sorek whose name was Delilah. The Lord came to her and said, "Tell him, coax him, find out what makes him strong, so we can subdue him, overpower him in order we can subdue him, and then we will each give you 1,100 pieces of silver." So Delilah said to Samson, "Please tell me what makes your strength so great and how you could be bound so that one could subdue you." I mean, we got to admit, there's nothing for lack of tact here. Like, just going for it. I think there are a couple different ways to look at this. Does everybody know what's going on? And he knows that, what she's doing and that she's stuck. And so he's just going to play around with mess with everybody because he's not going to tell them. But then he does. And is that because he just actually really loved her? And I don't know. I don't actually know. Okay. So please tell me. So Samson said to her, "If they bind me with 7 fresh bowstrings that are not dried out, then I shall become weak and be like anyone else." The lords of the Philistines brought her 7 fresh bowstrings that had not dried out, and she bound him with him. This is the part that creeps me out every time. While men were lying in wait in an inner chamber. So we've got men hanging out in the bedrooms, closets, right? Or the bathroom, right? Waiting to pounce. While that was happening, she said to him, "The Philistines are upon you, Samson." I mean, is this kind of a joke that everybody's in on, but the Philistines? I don't quite know how to read this, and I don't want to dwell on it, but he snapped the bowstrings as a strand of fiber snaps when it touches the fire. So the secret of his strength was not known. Then Delilah said to Samson, "You have mocked me and told me lies." I mean, if she's serious and freaking out, right? "Please tell me how you could be bound." He said to her, "If they bind me with new ropes that have not been used, then I shall become weak and be like anyone else." So Delilah took new ropes and bound him with them. Does this bring up BDSM for anyone else? Okay. She took the new ropes and bound him and said, "The Philistines are upon you, Samson." I mean, it is a pretty weird, acting going. I mean, it's not the scenario I would expect a couple to be, choosing as the foreplay. The men lying in wait were in an inner chamber. But he snapped the ropes off his arms like a thread. Then Delilah said to Samson, this is the 3rd time, right? "Until now, you have mocked me and told me lies. Tell me how you could be bound." He said to her, "If you weave the 7 locks of my head with the web and make it tight with a pin, then I shall become weak and be like anyone else." Wondering if anyone else pays attention to that in terms of the locks, the dreadlocks of his head, in terms of what that tells us about his hair and his ethnic origin. I can't help but have had a European dude in my head, from childhood. So I have to work really hard as I'm picturing this, to not picture that. But anyway, so while he slept, Delilah took the 7 locks of his head and wove them. Those are big, right? Must have been really massive dreadlocks, right? 7 of them. It's an interesting image. I like it. Anyway, he took the 7 locks of his head and wove them into the web and made them tight with a pin. Then she said to him, "The Philistines are upon you, Samson." But he awoke from his sleep, pulled away the pin and the loom and the web. And she said to him, "How can you say I love you when your heart is not with me? You have mocked me 3 times now and have not told me what makes your strength so great." Finally, after she had nagged him with her words. So there we have it. Timnah and Delilah, both. The woman of Timnah, also not named. Did you notice that? Anyway. After she'd nagged him with her words day after day and pestered him, he was tired to death. Right? I mean, it's so stereotypical. It's almost gross, right? I mean, she nagged him. He's tired to death, right? What's he been doing that makes him tired to death? So he told her his whole secret and said to her, "A razor has never come upon my head, For I have been a Nazarite to God from my mother's womb. If my head were shaved, then my strength would leave me. I would become weak and I would be like anyone else. We could spend some time talking about this, right? What's actually going on here. If he's just fucking around with her, messing with her, teasing her. But the playful part of me, wants to believe that, but the words, other parts of the conversations belie that. Like, that's not quite possible, right? In terms of nagging, he's just tired of listening to this woman nag, right? When Delilah realized that he had told her his whole secret, she sent and called the lords of the Philistines, saying, "This time come up, for he has told me his whole secret." Then the lords of the Philistines came up to her and brought the money in their hands. She let him fall asleep in her lap, and she called a man and had him shave off the 7 locks of his head. He began to weaken. Oh, that's interesting. The Greek says she began to torment him. I got to tell you, don't go there. We're not going there. Well, I mean, she began to torment him. It's just such a misogynistic thing to throw in here. Anyway, he began to weaken and his strength left him. Then she said, "The Philistines are upon you, Samson." When he awoke from his sleep, he thought, "I will go out as at the other times and shake myself free." But he did not know that the Lord had left him. Dun, dun, dun. So the Philistines seized him and gouged out his eyes. They brought him down to Gaza and bound him with bronze shackles. And he ground at the mill in the prison. But the hair of his head began to grow again after it had been shaved. Now, the lords of the Philistines gathered to offer a great sacrifice to their god Dagon and to rejoice. For they said, "Our God has given Samson, our enemy, into our hand." Bullshit. Delilah did. You all pressured this poor woman. Made life hell for her. But yeah, go ahead. Yeah, give the credit to your God. Whatever. So when the people saw him, they praised their God. For they said, "Our God has given our enemy into our hand, the ravager of our country, who has killed many of us." Now that's true. This part's true, right? And when their hearts were merry, they said, "Call Samson and let him entertain us." So they called Samson out of the prison, and he performed for them. They made him stand between the pillars, and Samson said to the attendant who held him by the hand, "Let me feel the pillars on which the house rests." I just want to comment that I've had, engineering students, civil engineering, whatever, they're like, "This is really irritating. This isn't how it works." I'm like, yeah, just suspend reality, right? This is a story. "Let me feel the pillars on which the house rests so that I may lean against them." Now the house was full of men and women. All the lords of the Philistines were there, and on the roof there were about 3,000 men and women who looked on while Samson performed. I think the number 3,000, it's one of those numbers like the number 40, because back in Exodus 32, when Moses calls people forward, and a bunch of men from the Levite clan step forward, and he's like, "All right, take your sword and go kill everybody, kill all your neighbors and cousins and brothers." And they kill 3,000 men that day. Like, I'm thinking it's just a number. I don't think but it's still a big number, and that's the point. I lost my place. Sorry about that. Now the house was full of men and women. All the lords of the Philistines were there, and on the roof there were about 3,000 men and women who looked on while Samson performed. Then Samson called to the Lord and said, "Lord God, remember me and strengthen me only this once, oh God, so that with this one act of revenge I may pay back the Philistines for my 2 eyes." Yeah, this guy has serious rage issues. No, but we want to hold him up as a hero, right? We got to hold him up as a hero. And Samson grasped the 2 middle pillars on which the house rested. Again, suspend reality here. And he leaned his weight against them, his right hand on the one and his left hand on the other. And Samson said, "Let me die with the He strained with all his might, and the house fell on the lords and all the people who were in it. So those he killed at his death were more than those he had killed during his life. Then his brothers and all his family came down and took him and brought him up and buried him between Zorah and Eshtaol in the tomb of his father Manoah. He had judged Israel 20 years. So I always make sure to highlight for people, because if you grow up in a Christian or Jewish tradition, you might not actually pay attention to the part I just read, right? He just gets, the Philistines are evil people because, they were living there first and they're resisting being taken over by these new people, these Israelite people. What evil sons of bitches they are. Philistines deserve whatever they get, And so killing 3,000 people in a revenge act, and it's not just a revenge act, it's a suicidal act of revenge. 3,000 people. More in his death, more in his suicide attack than in his life. And I'm using that language, those words very intentionally, just so you know. Right? But no, we're going to make him a hero, and we're going to find a way to be okay with that. Okay. So Samson as a hero, as a, it's really difficult, but more than that. So I'm thank you for being here. Thank you for all of you who are here. It's very fun to have you all here. Even if I'm not chatting much with you all. Yeah. Yeah. Dagon went fishing. Is that what you just said? That's awesome. What happened to Dagon? Yeah. I like it. Okay. So yes, Samson is problematic in so many ways, right? But again, what's being said in this story about sex, about marriage? Technically we don't know that there's any form of rape or physical abuse that involves genitalia or intimate body parts, but we do have a scene of him visiting a sex worker, right? And I have no interest in casting any sort of judgment on sex workers. We do have him married, quote unquote, to one woman, and we don't know that Delilah isn't said to be his woman. He just fell in love with her. He doesn't say anything about actually taking her as his, which is also interesting, right? Samson and Delilah. So even the English never calls her his wife, and she's never called his husband. He's never called his husband. So he's never called her husband. Sorry, I'm tired. So it's more about the relational dynamic in his story, as far as the purpose and the filter, the theme of my Storytime Live series, the way he's depicted, not just having rage issues, because sometimes people do, and so get some therapy, right? And maybe he is bipolar, and that explains the extreme reactions, right? And again, no judgment there. Get some help, get it regulated, take care of that. But saying it's from the Lord is really troubling. But also, when we have women even getting lines or being talked about in scripture, it doesn't happen often. And we have two women who are interacting with this guy, and he's rude and he's belittling and he's, and any kind of attempt on their part to interact with him or to communicate with him, he just, even if it is weird, it's an odd setup, it's still being set and described as if it's a trial to try to actually talk to a partner, which it's just, I don't even have time for that. You know what I'm saying? So anyway, that is, I need to wrap that up, focusing on what the intention of my, the lens is for my series here. But I hope that's been fun for you to have the story read, honestly, all the way through. That's, for some people, you've maybe read parts of it as a kid or something like that. And so sometimes it's just fun to have it all read straight through. So that's one of the reasons it was going to be fun to do this today, just to do that. And what's being said, right, about this relationship we call marriage. Not terribly positive things. Not terribly positive things, right? Okay. So thanks for being here. Thanks for hanging with me. Everyone who was here live, I'm just really touched. Thank you. And for those who are watching later, thank you. I hope you found something useful in this engagement with the scripture in an honest way. My intent is to be honest, to be present, to point out what's going on, and to not stop sweeping this stuff under the carpet. Let's be honest about it instead. And then you figure out what you're going to do with it, for those of you who want to or need to. Or for many of you, I think it's just cathartic and offering some sort of healing to have someone say this. And that's another reason why I do this. So thank you for being here. I have no idea what we're going to do next time, and I'll get around to that, and I'll post a little thing and let you know. So I'll see you next week. Hope you have a good weekend.